About 71% of the Earth's surface is covered with water, and about 2 in 5 people on Earth live within 60 miles of an ocean. So clearly, we love the water. But have you ever stopped and wondered what would happen if the oceans disappeared?
Colossal Questions!
The Earth has 5 oceans: the Pacific, Atlantic, Indian, Southern, and Arctic. All together, they're known as the world's ocean. All that water plays a pivotal role in Earth's ability to sustain life. So if it was all to dry up, we'd really be in some trouble. You see, our oceans move radiation that comes from the sun all around the planet. They take in the sun's warmth and energy, then move it around in currents of water that cycle warm towards the poles and cold water towards the equator. This transfer is the key to keeping our planet from getting too hot or too cold. Without oceans, the sun's rays would cook the equator and leave the poles so cold, nothing could survive there. The Earth's oceans are also important for the water cycle. As you probably know, H2O evaporates from oceans, lakes, or any body of water into the air where it forms clouds that eventually drop back down in the form of rainfall. Without those clouds forming, rain would be rare, and Earth would quickly become a desert almost everywhere. Animals and most plants would dry out and die fairly quickly without oceans and rain. All that dead plant life, combined with dry, rising temperatures, would cause massive fires that would stretch for thousands of miles. All those extreme flames would release tons of carbon dioxide into the air, slowly choking out the atmosphere and heating up the planet even more to temperatures over 150 degrees Fahrenheit. So, as you can see, life without our oceans would be pretty grisly. But there is one piece of good news. Experts estimate that at the earliest, the oceans would take several 100 million years to evaporate, and it would take close to 1 billion years for Earth to dry up completely. So don't worry, the oceans aren't going anywhere. Let's just not take them for granted. Have you ever been in a scalding hot shower with a bar of soap slipping through your fingers and shampoo stinging your eyes and wondered what would happen if I never took another shower?
Colossal Questions!
Here's what would happen if you decided today that you were never going to shower again. Well, for starters, you'd stink. This one's pretty obvious, right? Dead skin, dirt, and all kinds of bacteria would slowly build up all over your body, causing an obnoxious odor. Is that not gross enough to get you in the shower? Well, how about brown clumps that would start growing on your skin? That's right, dirt, dust, or other disgusting microbes would slowly start to collect on your skin, causing brown growths. It's most likely to happen on parts of the body that produce the most natural oils: your armpits, neck, head, and behind the ears. Dead skin wouldn't just build up on your body, your scalp would have all sorts of problems too. We call dead skin that collects on the scalp dandruff. It's a pretty common problem even for people who shower regularly, and it causes your head to itch. But if you stopped showering altogether, well, your dandruff would go into overdrive. Your hair would get oily and dirty and would start to look matted and full of knots like unintentional dreadlocks. As if that wasn't bad enough, the skin on your face would have the worst acne attack of all time, giving you terrible pimples and pus bumps from all the oil buildup. But if just being really, really gross isn't enough to keep you showering, what about the effect it has on your health? That's right, showers don't just keep you looking and smelling nice, they also keep you healthy. We're all taught that if we get a little scrape or cut, it's best to wash it off. That's because dirt and bacteria can cause an infection. But if you never shower, getting a small cut is way more likely to get infected because of all the extra bacteria crawling around on your skin. So while it might be annoying to have a bath or shower regularly, it's way less annoying than losing a limb to infection. It might be annoying having to brush your teeth every single day and night, but have you ever wondered what would happen if you never brushed your teeth again?
Colossal Questions.
Believe it or not, throughout history, people have always found ways to brush their teeth even before the invention of the toothbrush. For instance, the ancient Egyptians made a terrible toothbrushing device by splitting the end of a twig and rubbing it on their teeth. Yeesh! Another popular method around the ancient world was dipping a rag in salt water and rubbing the teeth clean. In order to keep their mouths minty fresh, people in ancient China would sometimes chew on flavored twigs, kind of like a natural breath mint. The Chinese were the first to invent the toothbrush over 1,000 years ago during the Tang Dynasty. It was made using the rough, bristly hairs on the back of a pig's neck and attaching them to a piece of bamboo or bone. Okay, so now that you know where the toothbrush came from, let's get right down to it. What would happen if you never brushed your teeth again? Whenever you eat, bacteria in your mouth breaks down the sugars left on your teeth from the food you ate. That sugar turns into an acid that damages the protective coating around your teeth called enamel. We call it a cavity whenever the acid rots a hole through that protective wall. Every time you brush your teeth, you're cleaning off the acid and protecting your teeth from cavities. If you don't brush your teeth, that acid will keep building up and up and up and form a yellow layer of bacteria called plaque on each tooth. Plaque can cause teeth to rot or even die if you don't make the effort to keep them clean. Think of it this way. When you watch a movie that takes place in the past, lots of times characters will have old, rotten brown teeth. Well, that's what it looks like when someone goes their whole life without good oral hygiene. And it might look right on a medieval peasant, but trust me, you don't want to be going to class with brown teeth falling out of your mouth. Bee populations around the world have started to drop, and fast. But why? What's causing the dip? And what would happen if bees went extinct entirely?
Colossal Questions.
There are more than 20,000 different species of bees buzzing around all over the world. And those bumbling insects are also maybe the most important pollinator. Pollinators are bees, butterflies, hummingbirds, or other insects that help move pollen from one plant to another. Without them, most flowers would have no way to reproduce and make new flowers every year. All that pollinating keeps tons of plant species alive. From 1995 to 2007, the number of bees in the US dropped by about 30% each year. That's double the average. Since 2008, those numbers have leveled out some, but they haven't come back up much. That's not good, and it might make you wonder, what's causing all those colonies to collapse? Most experts blame habitat loss and chemical sprays like pesticides and insecticides. Habitat loss happens when an area where bees live is disrupted, making it a tough place for bees to survive. Chemicals like pesticides and insecticides are sprayed on lots of crops all over the world to help control weeds, insects, rodents, or bacteria, anything that could damage the plants. Problem is, oftentimes the chemicals work too well. They don't just take out the pests, but other plants, insects, or animals nearby, like, say, a colony of bees. But no matter the reason, the data is clear. Bee populations are dropping. So it begs the question, what would happen if all of the bees died off? Well, it would be a colossal problem. Why? Well, about 1/3 of all the food eaten by humans each year comes from plants pollinated by bees. Apples, avocados, watermelons, kiwi, cherries, pumpkins, almonds, and lots more. Without bees, these foods would be much harder to grow. And without all that fresh produce, our nutrition would take a nosedive. It would also mean much less food for a slew of other species of insects, animals, and other organisms all the way down the food chain, possibly leading to even more extinctions. Losing all the bees would take lots of our favorite fruits and vegetables off the table, but it probably wouldn't actually cause massive widespread famine. Why? Because the majority of human food still comes from grains like wheat, barley, oats, quinoa, rye, and rice, and grains are pollinated by wind rather than bees. So, Would humanity survive if all the bees disappeared? Well, we would, but our planet would suffer terribly, and so would our diets. It might surprise you to hear that we spend about 1/3 of our lives asleep. But how come? Why do we need to sleep nightly, and what would happen if you never slept again?
Colossal Questions.
The very first day after giving up on sleep might not go exactly as you'd expect. The lack of normal sleep will overstimulate your brain since it doesn't have a chance to rest and power down. As a result, the reward pathways in your brain will produce a chemical called dopamine that will make you feel good, awake, and full of energy. Off to a good start, huh? Well, enjoy that while it lasts, because things are about to take a turn for the worse. First, your brain will conserve energy by shutting down the prefrontal cortex, the part that controls your impulses, reaction speed, and decision making. By the beginning of the second day, after 2 full nights without sleep, your brain and body will start powering down even more, and you might start to look pale and ill with deep, dark bags under your eyes. 2 nights without sleep would take its toll on your immune system too, which would leave you much more vulnerable to catching a cold or flu. Day 3 without sleep is where things would really start to get weird. If you manage to make it 3 days without any sleep, it's almost certain you would start hallucinating, as if your dreams are bleeding into the waking world. Ugh, trippy. Without sleep, it won't be too long before you actually die from exhaustion. Scientists don't know for sure exactly how long a healthy human can survive without sleep, but expert estimates suggest someone wouldn't last longer than a few months at best. The longest one person has ever been recorded going without sleep is a whopping 11 days, or over 260 hours. But here's the interesting thing. Even if you go that long without sleep, all it takes is about 12 hours of good, deep REM sleep to get you back on track with no long-lasting health effects. What's more dangerous is not getting sleep on a daily basis. Studies show that it puts you at risk of serious medical conditions like obesity, heart disease, diabetes, and even shortens your life expectancy. So yes, it might be annoying to go to bed when all you want to do is keep watching videos, but trust us, you're better off just getting some sleep. Fingernails just keep growing and growing until you finally cut them down to size. But what would happen if you never cut your fingernails and just let them grow?
Colossal Questions.
It might seem like fingernails just grow right there on the surface, but there's more to it than that. The spot where the skin meets the nail is called the cuticle. Under your cuticle is the nail matrix, where new skin cells are continuously created. As more and more skin cells are made in the matrix, the older cells are pushed out. As they're pushed, the skin cells change into a protein called keratin that flattens and hardens into a nail. That brand new nail continues to grow, slowly sliding along a nail bed of soft tissue. There are all kinds of things that can affect how fast fingernails grow. They grow faster during the day, during summer months, when you're young, and when pregnant. They also grow faster after a bit of light trauma to the nail, like after you bite them or break them. In fact, a bitten nail grows 3 times faster than a healthy nail. Your nails grow at different speeds too. Index, middle, and ring fingernails grow fastest, while your poor pinky tries to keep up. The thumb comes in last place as the slowest nail on your hand. Okay, so that's how your fingernails grow, but what would happen if you just stopped cutting them altogether? Well, to answer that question, we have to look at some of the longest nails ever recorded. As of 2023, the world record holder for longest fingernails on a pair of hands belonged to Diana Armstrong. Her combined nail length measured in at over 42 feet and 10 inches, longer than a school bus. She hasn't cut her nails since 1997.
As you might imagine, having nails that long makes it hard to do all kinds of simple tasks, and upkeep isn't easy. The nails are so long that they take over 4 hours to paint, and between 15 and 20 bottles of nail polish. Okay, so that's how long your nails can grow if you spend decades managing their growth. But how long would they get if you left them alone without all that extra effort? They'd become pretty annoying, honestly. Once they get long enough, nails stop growing straight and start to coil and twist. The longer they get, the curlier they become. Your nails won't grow to record-breaking lengths naturally. That takes a lot of upkeep, but they can still get up to a few feet in length. But eventually, all that extra nail will start to get brittle and eventually break. So, cut them, fight them, or wait for them to break. Whatever you've got to do to keep them reined in, because scrolling is hard with twisting tendrils on the tips of your fingers.